Hi loves, my name is Jay. I am new here to YouTube, so I wanted to just take a little bit of time and introduce myself, let you know a little bit about me. I have my phone here because my memory is not great, so I want to make sure that I am staying on track and I share the things that I feel I want to share. So let's just jump right in. We will start with my education. So I am a two-time HBCU graduate. I have a bachelor's degree in English literature from Fisk University. I am a daughter ever on the altar. Hey Fiskites. I also have a master's in Africana Women's Studies from Clark Atlanta University. And I get asked a lot what I can do with that degree or what that entails. And the answer is anything, everything. It's a humanities degree. But what the field entails essentially is it's the study of the lived experiences of Black women, like Africana women, women of African descent throughout the African diaspora, and how systems of power, domination, and oppression, such as racism and sexism, intersectionality, in total, essentially kind of like impacts us, and then how we interact with the world, how the world sees us, things of that nature. So that is my master's degree, and my master's research centers around how histories of trauma, specifically or especially histories that include sexual trauma, impact Black women's relationship to self, and then what that looks like as they interact with the world. So that is my education, my educational background. I'm a former educator. I am certified to teach 6th through 12th English language arts. I taught for 6 years. I taught 10th grade, college prep and honors for 3 years in Miami, and then I taught 9th grade honors and pre-IB for 1 year in Miami, and then I taught 8th grade ELA honors and college prep for a year, and then I did a split year 6th grade college prep, ELA, and then 7th grade social studies. And both of those years that I taught middle school were in Georgia, in the metro Atlanta area. I prefer high school. I feel like as educators you kind of figure out or just know where you work best, like where they don't drive you crazy, and also where your gifts are most utilized or most effective. And so for me, that's high school. I love kids, I love to teach, but yeah, I prefer high school. Middle school is a very, very weird time for students. And then I will be fair, the 2 years that I taught middle school also were like the COVID years, like that first year of COVID, and then one of the years after that education was trying to figure it out and they still struggling. So I will be fair, but I prefer high school. Let's see, what else? And I have my phone here, that's ridiculous. So a little bit about my family. I am the oldest of 3 girls. I have my middle sister, my sister-in-law, and my new baby niece, Minnie, live in Birmingham, Alabama. And then my mom and my youngest sister are in Georgia. My youngest sister is in college in Gainesville, and my mom lives in metro Atlanta. In addition to that, I'm looking at her over here. I should turn the camera around, but I'm not gonna disturb her. I have my fur baby. Her name is Basil Hayden. She is named after a whiskey, but she's named after the whiskey because she's the color of the whiskey. When I adopted her to celebrate, I did buy a bottle for me and some of my friends to kind of partake in, since she is named after it. It will put hair on your chest. I no longer drink anyway, but that was, was that 6 years ago? Yeah, because I adopted her when she was 3 and she's 9 now. She is an American Staffordshire Terrier, so she's one of those breeds that gets lumped in as a pit bull. My baby, that's my baby. Something I used to do in my classroom during like the first week of school, icebreaker, is 3 boring facts about yourself. And I always share, to try to give the kids an example and help them be more comfortable. So I'll do that here now too, because I think like this is gonna be, we'll start with a little bit of the boring stuff. So 3 boring facts about me. I can't sing. I mean, at all. One of my closest friends in college really feels like I'm tone deaf. Now, if you're close to me, and you're blessed enough, you will hear me sing anyway, like all the time, because I love music. Like I really love music. I listen to all types of music, but I don't play any instruments. I cannot sing. I am not musically gifted, but music is like my jam. So I sing anyway, even though I sound horrible, but I know I sound horrible. It is not one of the areas that I have been blessed in. Interesting, well, boring fact number 2, I hate socks. I hate for my feet to feel really, really closed in. And then also I'm looking, because I have socks on now, go figure. But the seam that runs across like the top of your foot, it drives me absolutely insane. So like I have to be very, very particular about my socks and my shoes in the winter. But the minute the sun is out and it's like sandal season, sun's out, toes out for me. And then boring fact number 3, I have not grown in height since 7th grade. I am 5'1½", and yes, my half counts. So I've been the same height for a lot of years. For a lot of years. All right, so we'll move into, I think, a little bit of like the more interesting stuff. So we'll start with the states that I've lived in. So I am from New Haven, Connecticut originally. So I've lived in Connecticut. I've lived in the metro Atlanta area, so I've lived in Georgia. I worked and taught in Miami, so that's Florida. I went to undergrad in Nashville, Tennessee, so what's that? That's 4, right? And then I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma for like a month and a half, almost 2 months during my TFA institute before I started teaching. So I'm gonna count that. I'm gonna count Oklahoma, even though like it really don't count, but I'm gonna count it. And then now I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I moved here, is today 3 weeks ago? Let me look at my calendar. I know it's either 3 weeks or I'm coming up on the month. Let's see. Oh, no, this is a month. Today marks my month. So, wait, no, I'm tripping. No, I'm right, 4 weeks. So I live in Arizona now. So how many states is that? Connecticut, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Arizona, Oklahoma. So we'll say 5.5. Okay, so I've lived, not necessarily everywhere, but I like to move around. I like, well, my family's in Georgia, so I don't know if I would have moved there on my own, possibly because I did do my graduate studies at Clark Atlanta University, and they are the only institution in the nation that has a graduate program in Africana women's studies. They are the first and the only. So I probably would have ended up in Georgia anyway. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. I'll do a separate video on that, but I moved via like road trip. So for me, it was very important to like move through the country and see the change, like the change in nature, the scenery, the change in architecture and buildings, the changes in culture. So I didn't want to get on a plane in Georgia and then just hop off a plane in Arizona and boom, I live in a new and different place. There's 2 main reasons. That's one of them. The other one is I will absolutely never put my baby in the cargo hold, and she is too big and also too nervous to get on the plane with me. The whole thing would just be so stressful for both of us. So moving via plane was not an option for me. So those are the 2 reasons that I road tripped it. And I guess I could talk a little bit about it, but that'll be part of the other video too. So I stopped in New Orleans, Dallas, and then Alamogordo, which is a town in New Mexico. It took me about a week. Let's see, something else I can share, my hair journey. So I'm looking at myself right here, but as you can see, I have little to no hair currently. I went to the barbershop and had them cut it all off. I think it's been, has it been 2 years? Let's see. I think I'm coming up on 2 years. I did it for my birthday. I kind of just, well, I made the appointment, but I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody that I was cutting all of my hair off. So I made my appointments. I had just explained to my family that this specific birthday felt like it was supposed to be one, like just relaxed and kind of solitude. So I didn't plan anything. I didn't want to do anything. I just had a couple of appointments and things, you know, like my upkeep, my nails. I wanted to get that stuff done. So I got up, I got dressed, I left the house, and when I came back, I had no hair. It is not the first time I've cut all of my hair off. It is the first time I have gone this short, and when I cut it, it was actually a lot shorter. So I told the barber, I found a female barber, a woman barber at the time, and I told her I wanted it as close to bald as she could get me, but I didn't want to be actually bald. So it was very, very short, and I wore it like that for a couple, like six to 8 months, somewhere in that. Yeah, it's been 1.5 years. So 6 to 8 months, I wore it really short like that. And then I decided that I wanted waves. So my barber kind of just, I don't know what happened to baby girl, but she just like up and disappeared. She wasn't taking clients anymore. I didn't know where she was. So I had to find another barber, and that was a bit of a situation. It took me a little second. But when I found a barber, I wanted to try waves. So I found a good barber. And so I had to get a little more length to make sure that I could wear waves. So previously, so this is the third time that I've cut my hair. The first time that I've cut it this low. So the second time I cut my hair, I cut my locks off. So I had locks for 8 years. They reached a little past my belt, like my belt line or whatever, where your pants sit. I had locks for 8 years, and I cut them off. First, it was like an undercut, and I wore that for like a month or so, and then I went to the barbershop and got it cut off. But I kept hair at the top, and so it was like, ooh, I'm hitting my light. So it was, you know, the little brush thing, so your curls are popping at the top. So that was time number 2, and then I'm lying. I've cut my hair 4 times. So the time before that, I was in undergrad, and I can't even remember why I cut my hair then. I can't remember why I cut it, but I cut my hair off. And I wanted to wear it short for quite some time. But when I went back to school, they were charging a whole lot for haircuts. And I just was like, I can't pay you this amount of money to keep me bald. So I just grew my hair out. And then when my little afro reached a point where I didn't really know what to do with it. This was pre, you know, YouTube. So I didn't really know what to do with it. I locked it. And then the first time I ever cut all my hair off, I had damaged it. I spent the summer, it was in high school. It was like, I think it was it was the summer before my sophomore year. So the summer before my sophomore year, I went to Georgia to visit my aunt and my cousins, and we bleached my hair because I wanted it this like orangey, auburny color. And we bleached my hair, and it damaged it. It didn't fall out, but when I got back home, you know, mom took me to the beautician, and it was shedding. And so with the beautician, she was like, well, we can just cut it off a little at a time if you would prefer that, or we just cut it all off. And I didn't want my hair shedding all of the time. At that time, I'm from New Haven, Connecticut, so, you know, I'm used to going to the Dominicans, getting a doobie and all of that. So I just cut it all off. It was interesting. I cut it all off. Well, I cut it very short, and then I wore braids because I was not at like 14 comfortable enough to rock a baldy. So that's a little bit about my hair journey, and here I am now. I think the next thing I'll do is a pixie, but I'll stay here for a while. So my personal beliefs and values is next up on my list. And this is gonna jump, I guess, a little bit all around the place, but it's just like, hey, this is me, Jay. So my personal beliefs and values, I'm going to say spirituality, personal development, authenticity. And within authenticity for me, integrity, honesty, and like compassion is mixed all up in there. And then communication too. I'm very big on communication. I talk a whole lot, like I talk a lot, but I am also a very good listener, and I have mastered the art of listening to understand and not listening to respond. It took some time. But those are I think like my core values. And then in terms of In terms of personal beliefs, when I think of personal beliefs, I kind of think like, what do you believe in? And so I am not a religious person. I grew up religious. I did like the first half of my life in the church, and then the first half of my childhood, in the church, and then the second half of the latter part of my childhood in the Kingdom Hall. And so currently I am not a religious person. I don't do organized religion. I am spiritual, and I do believe in a higher power. I believe in the connectivity of all things, and I believe in the golden rule. Like, we are not here to... I also believe that we're not here to stress and suffer. I was not created for stress. I was not created for stress. I was not created to suffer. So those are like some of my beliefs. My homegirl told me that I should share some of my pet peeves and guilty pleasures. Pet peeves. I don't know. Like, I know I have some, but I don't. Okay, pet peeve. I don't really like to be cut off when I'm talking, and then I definitely don't like to be cut off by people who will cut you off all of the time, but then if you cut them off, it's a problem. I hate that. That is a pet peeve for real. What else is a pet peeve? These are like, I guess, superficial or like whatever, but no, maybe that's a different thing. So that's a pet peeve of mine. I also do not like for people to talk to me or communicate with me like I'm slow or like I'm stupid, because I just told you my educational background. Like, I'm very far from stupid. So I don't like that at all. And I also don't like, because I am inquisitive by nature and I like to know things, I like to learn things, I don't really do well in conversations with people that take being asked questions like for clarification or understanding or deeper meaning as like an interrogation. I don't know what is going on outside my patio. Like, I'm very confused with what Buddy's doing with the truck. I hope y'all can't hear that as loudly as I can, because I'm new at this, and this editing thing on this level, I'm not sure how it's gonna go. So I was really hoping that I could just record this video and post it without having to do too much to it. They don't want to let me be great, y'all. They do not want to let me be great. Guilty pleasures. Love is Blind. Love is Blind is a guilty pleasure. What else? I'm a snacker. Like, I'm a snacker. And so I eat a lot of like gummies. Like not Starburst. They have like Skittles gummies, Kellogg's gummies, not gummies, fruit snacks. I eat a lot of fruit snacks. So I'm working on it, but when I'm snacking, I need something that is chewy and sweet, or soft and sweet, and something that is like crunchy and salty. So that might look like Cape Cod jalapeno chips and Kellogg's strawberry fruit snacks, or it could look like pretzels and cake, like something that's decadent and soft and sweet, and then like crunchy or hard and salty. So I think those are guilty pleasures, right? I think they count. We'll just say they count. Next up on my list is influences, like people and things that have influenced me. So I will start with people. And if you know me, I feel like you kind of really already know this, but my mom, hands down, no explanation needed, necessary, none of that. Bell hooks, RIP, absolutely. Bell hooks changed. So let me back up. There are a couple of people, right? A couple of people that I have encountered in my life, whether that be in person, as a mentor or a professor, or through their works, like their books or their talks and things of that nature. So a couple of people have not changed the way I think. They have like expanded. They have expanded the way that I think. So I feel like it's difficult to put into words, but it's kind of like, you know, I'm thinking on this level, right? And I meet somebody or I read something, and it doesn't necessarily, like, of course it takes me up another level, but it opens my mind more, right? So it like expands the way I think, transforms how I see things. And so Bell Hooks is on that list, hands down, absolutely. Like, I started reading Bell Hooks in undergrad. I minored in women's studies. And my professor, who is also on this list of people that have influenced me, Dr. Adenike Davidson, Office guys know her, absolute, like, just brilliant, right? I think she's the dean at Delaware State now or something of that nature. So she's on the list. She also really just opened up my worldview and opened up my mind and how I think. So I've come across a lot of people, and I feel like this was my teaching philosophy, which sometimes got me, I'm not gonna say in trouble, but in trouble. So I've never been a person that wanted to teach my students what to think. I wanted to teach my students how to think. And I think some of them kind of trying to acclimate to that was a little difficult because they're so used to there being a right answer to something. But with English literature, like, I had the space and the opportunity to really challenge and try to grow how they think. So Dr. D is on this list. She was one of those people for me. Dr. Stephanie Sears from Clark Atlanta. She was my graduate advisor when I was finishing my program, and I cannot even begin to put her level of brilliance into words. So I was definitely influenced by her. Like, without her, and having known her and got to work so closely with her for, I think we worked together for about a year or so, I wouldn't be sitting here right now because I wouldn't be a business owner. I just wouldn't be who I am right now if I had not met her. So she's on the list as well. And then Ayala Van Zant, love Ayala. You can never make me hate her. She is fantastic, phenomenal, all of the things. I actually did a 40-day abundance program, workshop situation with her in 2022 that really helped transform my relationship with money and my money mindset. Like, it was wonderful. In terms of like literature or works, I will say Don Miguel Ruiz. Reading The Four Agreements, and that wasn't even the first book that I read by him. I can't remember the first book that I read by him, but it really, really was like, and so I looked up the rest of his works, and his connection to his people's like ancient wisdom and his ability to explain it in such a simple, easy to understand, easy to follow, easy to implement way is absolutely amazing. His most famous work is The Four Agreements, but I have, I think, most of his works. And the one that I love the most, oh Lord, I can't remember the name of it. Let me Google it real quick. It's on love. The Mastery of Love. The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. Boom. Absolutely. So Don Miguel Ruiz is another one. The Alchemist is a book that absolutely changed my life. And it's interesting because I bought the book, I want to say like 8 years ago, because it was one of those books that I had just, I heard people talk about. It's one of the greats. And so I bought it 8 years ago and I never read it. And then it was packed up with all of my books. Like, I own a ton of books. It was packed up with all of my books. And then, when I was dating, I met a guy who, it was his favorite book. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't read it. I own it, but I don't know where it is. And so we went on a date and we met at a bookstore and he bought it for me. And so I read it 2 years ago, and yes, it's a great book. So The Alchemist is on my list of influences. Let's see. I think that's good on that. We'll stop there because I can talk about that all day forever. Oh wow. I think I'm through most of my list. Okay, I have two other things here. One is just it's random, but I really like this era of R&B. Like I stumbled across, I have Tidal, and I've started listening to like track radios. So if there's a song that I like, I'll go to the track radio and it'll just populate like a boatload of other songs that have that same vibe, or the artists are in like that same genre. And so I stumbled across, her name is Leia, and her songs Crazy Down, Sailor Moon, and then Sock It To Me. Really, really like them. And then Guess by Lucky Day. I feel like some of these more, I don't know if they're indie artists or if they're just not as well known, but I feel like they are doing a very good job sampling the R&B that I grew up on, which makes me feel a little old for somebody to be sampling Sock It To Me by Missy Elliott. And then crap, I can't remember the song that anywho, for people to be sampling songs that I was singing in middle school and high school, it makes me feel a little old, but I do really like this era of R&B. And then the last thing I have to share is a couple of goals that I want to work on. I always have goals. I always have goals going. And so right now I'm in a space where I am reminding myself to exist in a place of flow, and reminding myself that I have just accomplished like a lot of my goals, and very, very big goals. So I just made the move to Phoenix. I just finished my certification for my 200-hour yoga teacher training. So I'm reminding myself to relax. But a couple of things, currently I'm working on curating my space, which it'll take a little time. I'm trying to be patient with that too, because I want to curate. I don't want to just have like a bunch of stuff in here. I want my home to be like my place of refuge, my oasis. So that is what I'm currently focused on, that and then my business, which I can circle around to in a moment. But outside of that, I want to train my dog. So she's a rescue. I put her in a training program before, and to be 100% honest, I really feel like they just duped me out of $2,000, but that's neither here nor there. She is insecure. So while she's a sweetheart, there are a lot of things that like stress her out or make her nervous. And I don't really want her to live her whole entire life in that state. And then in addition to that, she in recent years tore both of her ligaments in her hind legs that would be the equivalent to like a human's ACL. She tore both of them. And apparently I found out after all of this happened, but it's a very common injury in her breed once they start to get older. And so before she tore the ligament, she was a dog park dog. She was at the dog park literally every day in Miami. The park in my complex, before I went to work, there were some days where if I had an extended lunch break or an extended planning period, I could run home and take her to the park, because I live 5 minutes from work. But since she tore her ligaments in her legs and she started to get a little older, so she has a little arthritis and things like that, her patience is thin, and she is much more reactive. So she's like a lot more guarded and reactive with other dogs, which means she doesn't get to play anymore. I'm really nervous about her, A, exasperating those injuries, and then B, I'm really nervous about her reactivity causing a situation, because so I want to train her just so that she's able to do a little more. Like I want to be able to take her out and about in Phoenix to like parks and like the hiking, and I just don't want her overstimulated and scared and nervous all of the time. So I want to train her to kind of combat some of that. I also want to pick my Spanish back up. Interesting tidbit. When I graduated from high school, I was very close to being fluent. I took Spanish all 4 years of high school, and I took AP Spanish my senior year. When I got to college, I made a decision that I felt was it was the best decision I thought at that time. Like I made the best decision I could with the information that I had available to me. So when I went away to college, I had this like perception that college was going to be very, 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 very hard. And so I felt, even though I was almost fluent, I felt like I would probably be unprepared or underprepared for the level of Spanish that I tested into. So I opted to take beginner Spanish because I figured, okay, I don't want to get in over my head, and then also if I already know some of this stuff, it can be a refresher, and then it can be in an easy A, like a class that I could do well in to kind of balance out if I'm struggling in other areas, because I'm new at this. I'm new to college. I don't know why I did that. I do know why I did that, but it wasn't a good choice. My professor for Spanish 1 and 2 was an adjunct professor, and it consisted of worksheets. We did a lot of like worksheets and a lot of like watching Spanish soap operas, right? It was a real step back from never being able to speak English in any of my Spanish classes in high school, reading Don Quixote in Spanish in high school. So eventually I just completely fell off, and so I can read a little bit of Spanish, and I'm sure I can still write a little bit of Spanish, but I can't speak it fluently. And I don't know how familiar anybody is with Phoenix, Arizona, but this is one of the perfect places to kind of, immerse myself and pick my Spanish back up. So I do want to train my dog, learn Spanish. And then the last thing that I would really, really like to do, and I want to make time for, I've been saying it for years, and I just never make time for it. I just hurt my bracelets. I talk with my hands. I hope that has not been like driving anybody crazy this entire video. Let me take them off. I mean, we're at the tail end here, but let me take them off. So I want to learn how to do my makeup. I do. I don't need to be, I don't need to be like an Instagram baddie, but I want to learn how to do a nice, like, well polished, put together makeup look for like an everyday look. So yeah, those are 3 goals that at some point I really want to do all 3. I think it's just a matter of finding the time or creating the time, which at this particular point in my life might be a little difficult, but those are like some things that I would like to do. I've always wanted to be fluent in 2 languages, like as far back as I can remember. I wanted to be fluent in Spanish. I wanted to be fluent in ASL, American Sign Language. Oh, I guess. So I talked about my previous professional experience. I didn't mention what I do now. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a self-care and wellness coach and a yoga instructor. I specialize in helping women with trauma histories kind of move forward. I help people deal with overwhelming anxiety, kind of just move through that so that they can show up as their best selves. I can also help anybody who wants to start fresh, move to a new place. I have intimate experience with that. And then I teach yoga, and I offer personalized self-care plans. Like, I know that sometimes self-care feels like it's not possible, or it's a luxury, and all of these things that are absolutely 100% incorrect. But for a lot of people who have lived consistently in a state of overwhelm or survival mode, for people who have lived in survival mode, it can be very difficult to kind of take a step back and figure out A, what you need, and then B, how to implement that into your life so that you are moving from survival into like enjoying your life and thriving. And so I do also offer personalized self-care plans. I feel like this is 35 minutes of like just an intro to me and who I am. So I started this YouTube channel because I feel I finally, I guess, reached a point in my life. People have been telling me forever, you need to get on YouTube, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to be posting. And I've just always really been a private person. I've been a private person, and so something about sharing like myself and anything that was like near and dear to me just felt a little but I've been through a lot on my journey. I've been through a lot on my journey. It has made me the person that I am, and now with a much better understanding of myself, I think a much better understanding of life in the world, I understand, see, recognize, acknowledge all of those things, the value that sharing my story can bring. So, I mean, that's the really, really short, condensed version, but there's power in testimony. And so, here I am. Here I am, starting a YouTube channel. But what will this YouTube channel entail? So I did just move to the other side of the country, so it will be a little bit of lifestyle. I'm thinking vlogs, also the home decor. I can't talk. I've been talking for 35 minutes straight, and now I can't talk. Home decor. I'm decorating my house. I'm decorating my place, so I'll be sharing some of that. And then my I guess like self-love, self-care journey, tips and tricks. Like maybe I'm gonna leave myself space to grow and figure this thing out as I go, because it's all very, very new to me. But yeah, if any of that seems like it is of interest to you, or you know, could be beneficial for you, please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all of the things. You know, I'm always open to community, looking for my peoples. So I've been saying so a whole lot too. I'm nervous. I'm really nervous, and I'm just sitting on my counter in my place by myself, but I'm still nervous because I know this is going to be posted for the world to see. But again, this is me. I'm Jay. I'm new to YouTube. Come along for the ride.